But I think at the heart of things, if you don't believe what you offer is valuable and is worth people investing money in and is truly helping people, if you don't believe that, everything else in your business is not going to work.
Welcome to Spill the Tea. We are Cass and Amanda. We are the co-founders of the creative studio Foxtrot Branding.
And in these episodes, we share about navigating our lives as designers and business owners and the challenges and rewards that come up along the way.
So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing designers and imposter syndrome, why it hits hard, and how to push past it.
Yeah, this is something that we've consistently experienced ourselves and also talked with other designers about for the entire existence of our business. It's just something that doesn't go away, and I think is especially prevalent for newer designers.
For sure, yeah. And I think it's something that keeps popping up in just new ways over time. And so that's definitely something we can talk about today. Like, how does it impact you when you're a brand new designer, and how does it impact you as you're, making new moves or leveling up in different ways in your business?
Before we dive in, if you've enjoyed this podcast, we'd love if you could leave us a rating or review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast, because that really does help us out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can give this video a like and also leave us a comment.
We appreciate it. Okay. So what's the tea at Foxtrot, Cass? What's going on lately for us?
What is going on?
What isn't going on?
What isn't going on? It's been fairly busy as we're trying to just kind of get back to our normal routine still, since I was out a little bit earlier this year. I mean, it is still early in the year, but yeah, just
it feels like it's been a whole year already. Honestly.
Yeah, it really does. So much.
The last couple months have been intense.
Yeah. A lot of sales calls. The economy is really scary and interesting right now, so I think we're definitely seeing that affect bookings and just how ready clients are to book and move forward with things. So just navigating that, and then also trying to knock out some internal work stuff. I don't know, it's kind of boring, but just some things on our list that we've been meaning to do, and we're just trying to get a system to do that, and also make sure we're showing up on social platforms. So I don't know, nothing crazy interesting, I feel like.
Yeah. It's just kind of just trying to stay above the water and get things done. And we have a lot of things that we're really excited about, which we will be sharing some new updates for designers at the end of this episode. So definitely stay tuned for that, or check the show notes if you want to skip ahead and see what's up.
Okay, so let's dive into our topic and talk about imposter syndrome. And first off, start talking about just what defined it. What is imposter syndrome? I think to define it specifically for designers and freelance designers and business owners, I think it's that persistent feeling that you're not really qualified or talented or good enough to be doing the work that you're doing, even if you have the experience, even if you have the skill or the proof, to back it up that you are. It's kind of that inner nagging voice that's always been actually, what if you're not good enough to do this? Or the anxieties, I think, too, of the what ifs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this comes up in so many different ways too, and it can be kind of sneaky. What is that feeling? Is that valid, or is that just me being anxious and having that imposter syndrome? And I don't know if other people are like me too, but I feel like I tend to feel tired of hearing about the idea of imposter syndrome, but we notice we keep getting asked about it in our audience too, and noticing that it's something that we are still feeling, even if we're it's not always the most fun thing to think about and talk about. Our audience is still feeling it. We still feel it in different ways. It is just something that everyone faces. So even if imposter syndrome was a really hot topic maybe a few months or years ago, it's still such a relevant thing that we're all facing.
Mm-hmm.
So today, we were, thinking about this concept and writing down our notes, and there are just so many examples of how this can come up. And like Cass said, it's the feelings of am I faking it? Or something that we faced when we were newer and just starting. We were really young. We were just in college or fresh out of college. And one of the ways that I really felt imposter syndrome was just all of our clients are older than us. And so even if they weren't the designer and they had no experience in design, I would tend to kind of trust them more as like the leader in the project, which is like
Mm.
not good for running a project, running your own business if you're consistently like letting your client be the guide there. But that's a really hard thing when you are like genuinely only like 22 years old and you're working with business owners who are like in their 40s or 50s and they have the money and they have the experience. Like it's really hard to combat that feeling, you know?
Whether you're feeling fresh and green because you're young, like we were, or you're feeling fresh and green because this is a new skill to you and a new
Mm-hmm.
service offering if you're like pivoting into a career. And I think it does hit specifically hard for freelancers and freelance designers. And there's like a few reasons for that. Number one, it's all on you when you're first starting out. Typically, you're not going to have a team or anyone else to rely on, or like a boss who's coaching you through this, or somebody who is in it with you that has that extra level of experience. Because I mean, even though we're partners, we were at the same level pretty much of business and design experience. I mean, you had a little bit more design experience than me,
But you
but
had other like business experience. Like you had freelanced a little bit too, and your skill set from school was different, but like it applied in different ways. So yeah, I mean, we both like we're still both very new though to like being like, okay, we are founders now of a design studio. Like,
yeah.
who are we to say that we can do this? You know,
Right.
like,
Well, and it's also like design is an incredible industry to get into because you can be self-taught, but it's
mhm.
also subjective, and there's like a huge range of the type of designer you can be, the type of services you can offer. So there is a lot of subjectivity in saying like, this is the type of design I do, this is how much I'm going to charge for it. It can feel a little nebulous, I think.
Because especially it's like other careers, like you get that like validation, like you go to school to become a doctor, you get that degree, you get like you go through all the phases, and you're like, great, now I'm a doctor. There's people saying I'm a doctor officially, and I even went to school for design. I have a degree in design, but
Yeah.
I still kind of felt like, but who am I now to be a business owner too? Like I didn't go to business school, and so that's definitely like a really unique, weird thing to approach, like, because design is something that you can easily get into, but not everyone has like the business foundation or the skill set. But a lot of, I think it's something you can learn. Like, if it's something you want
Hmm.
to do, like, I think everyone can learn it, but it is a better fit for different kinds of people too. Like, it just kind of depends. But if you're here and you're listening to this podcast, you're probably the kind of person who is like ready to start your business or already have, you're interested in that, you're the right kind of person for that, and you're trying to just figure out, how do I grow past this like uncomfortable feeling of like not knowing, I don't know, just like how to get past the imposter syndrome. Like, how do you push past it? It's tough. So we're going to talk about all of that today too.
Yeah, it's something that is a universal feeling just as a human, but I think it does hit in some unique ways
Mm-hmm.
as a designer. It just, especially being like going back to just it being you and being alone, it's hard, and you can kind of become like, I think, an echo chamber in your head of just like these anxieties bouncing around. And I think sometimes imposter syndrome is very subconscious. Like you're not even sometimes acknowledging like, oh, I'm having an imposter syndrome thought right now. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that feels like very normalized and programmed into your brain of just constantly feeling like so anxious and nervous about a project or doing a sales call, or putting yourself out there, because what's really underlying those feelings is that I'm not good enough and like I'm not going to be able to do this.
And that can sneak up in little ways too, like even with your pricing. Like if you're like really second guessing your pricing, like that could be another way that that's creeping up. Like, why are you questioning your pricing so much? Why are you invalidating that so much? Like, it's coming from that kind of sneaky or sneaky imposter syndrome in the
Hmm.
back end. So,
Yeah, I feel like people might be curious to know how imposter syndrome has affected our business, like early on, and then also now. Like, do we still deal with it? Um, Amanda, do you feel like there are any areas early on that you specifically experienced imposter syndrome or just insecurities?
I think when starting out for me, it was mostly just like the fact that we were so young and
Yeah.
really just trying to figure things out. And we didn't really have a set process. And I think that's another way that imposter syndrome really sneaks up on you, is like when you don't have the experience and you don't have just like the knowledge to kind of back up like why you're running your project a certain way, or the experience to back up why you price a certain way. um, it does, you just question so much because you're so new and you're learning so much. So I think that's very reasonable. But yeah, what about you, like, and how do you feel, like, does it still impact you now that we're like 7 years in?
I think early on the places I most felt it in our business was doing sales calls or sales meetings because
Hmm.
sometimes we were doing them in person with
Yeah,
local clients, and I had so much anxiety and
I did
imposter
too.
syndrome on those
My
meetings.
stomach would be so upset before every call. uh,
Yeah, it was intimidating for a variety of factors. First of all, I think sales calls are just really uncomfortable if it's not something you have done a lot of before, like inherently that scenario of like, I am trying to pitch my services to this person and justify my prices to them. Like, I think early on we had more of that mindset of like, I need to prove this is why my
mhm.
services are worth that price. Whereas now, with more experience and understanding the value and just being further along, it's like, no, I'm not justifying my services to you. These are my services, let me explain them. Yeah, we can talk about the specific ways that like they're going to benefit your business and answer your questions, but like, I don't have to justify it. But in the beginning, I think we definitely felt more that way with clients. And also just feeling like you're winging it because you're just trying
Because
out
you kind of
different
are
things.
at the
Yeah, like
start.
you're just seeing what questions work. For sure, not getting all the information we needed because we didn't have, the proper list of questions. Or Amanda, you talk about like one time a story where you were just like, yep, that got everything we needed, like after a few questions. And I
Mhm.
was like, actually, I think we need to get a couple more pieces of
Yeah.
info.
I was just, like, nervous and not thinking clearly, and we weren't, like, preparing well either, and I think, like, that lack of preparedness and experience definitely contributes to the imposter syndrome feelings.
Yeah.
And so I think now that we're, like, further in our business, now, like, sales calls feel very natural to us. We know what to look out for, we know what to ask, we have our templates that we use every single time. Like, we have a system, and we have the confidence to know how to talk to people, and we also don't have the insecurity that we did as when we were first starting. Like, now we have the confidence knowing that, like, we know we do good work, we know that our work is worth what we charge. Like, you just build that confidence in yourself over time. um but sometimes, yeah, we might feel a little bit of imposter syndrome here and there, like if we're pitching a really big project. There have been times in the recent years where we're like, oh, like, can we actually deliver on that, on that
Mhm.
proposal we're
I think, and
sending?
honestly, I think you probably should have some nervousness whenever
True. If you have
you're
no
pitching.
nervousness, you might be a little too cocky. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I think my therapist talks about good stress, which I hate that that exists, but apparently, like, you as a human being, like, should feel some level of, like, stress and pressure in your life to complete your tasks well, and make sure you're just, I don't know, being a good human, basically. But yeah, I think when you are pitching, a big project, yeah, it's natural to feel some nervousness because you're like, I want to follow through and do a good job for my client. And I think that makes you a good service provider. I don't think it should be the overwhelming feeling at all. I think you like now it's more like, oh wow, like I'm a little nervous because I hope they book it and I hope it goes well. But ultimately, I'm falling back on I have a great system. I've worked with a lot of clients and navigated, some difficult situations. So no matter what happens and no matter what comes up, I know I'm going to be able to navigate this well and ultimately provide like an end result that I feel really good about and proud of, and I know is going to serve my client no matter what happens.
Hmm.
But yeah, you still feel a little bit of that or a little bit of nervousness, like jumping on a sales call to talk to a business that you've never met, or if you're really wanting to book it, there's still a little bit of that there for
Hmm.
sure.
I would say it's definitely, like, at least for me, I have less of a physical reaction now than I used
Sure.
to. Like, I definitely would get, like, the upset stomach, feel really physically, like, I could feel the anxiety in my body. Nowadays, I don't really feel that on most calls. Occasionally, I do if I'm just having, like, kind of a high anxiety day for some reason. But I don't normally feel as, like, nervous or triggered by just calls in general, which is good. I feel like that's, like, a really great, like, progress that I've made over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, I think that's super common too. Like when we talk to a lot of newer designers, a lot of designers will say, "No, I don't have sales calls," or designers like hate having them at the beginning, which is very relatable. But what what do you feel like has helped you overcome that the most? Do you feel like it's just like time and experience, or I don't know, how has that like
I
progression
think
been for
it's
you?
yeah, I feel like it's a combination of things, and this is probably similar to most people's experience, but it's just like experience over time that compounds and your confidence grows with that. Um, Experience just in like growing older, especially for the life phase that we've been in, like the difference from me at 22 versus 28 is a very big difference. I just am more secure in myself as a person. Um, but not everyone may like experience that if you're starting in your 40s or 50s. You may already feel very established and confident in who you are. So it's like
Sure.
we're having to push past that, like growing as a person plus
Yeah.
growing as a business owner. But yeah, overall, I think it's just, yeah, just growing over time, having that experience, but also like building the trust in myself to just knowing that like I know that I can handle a call. I can talk to someone. I can talk to people, right? Like that's like
Yeah.
some people just get really nervous about it and I understand, but it's like the person on the other end of the Zoom call is just another person. They're just another business owner. They're also just trying to figure it out. And I think especially as we've grown, we've attracted like our ideal clients, and so it feels more just like a casual chat with like a new potential friend than
Mhm.
a sales call. Like it doesn't feel as intimidating, even though we are still like approaching it as a sales call. We are still being serious, but we're also being friendly and lighthearted, and like it just feels less scary. It's a lot
Yeah.
different than, maybe the business owners we were talking to when we first started. It was like local businesses, or like we would work with pretty much anyone. So like also working with very established like male business owners, I don't know, felt really scary when you're like a 22-year-old and you're talking to a man who owns a business, and like it just feels a little more intimidating.
Sure.
um
Should we talk about how the patriarchy plays into imposter
Patriarchy.
syndrome?
I mean, absolutely. Like it
Gender
definitely
roles.
makes you feel like, I don't know, like women are less good at sales or less good at being
Yeah.
business owners or whatever. And that's just kind of what we internalize over time. There's so many women and girls who are not like empowered from a young age and told that they can do whatever they want. I feel really lucky that I don't know what your family was like. I do know your family was very like entrepreneurial. So you definitely had those influences. My family had a lot of entrepreneurs in the family too, and like my parents were always very supportive of me in the way that like they're like, yeah, you can do anything you want. Like you're smart, you can figure it out. And I think that definitely impacted like my confidence as I was growing up, and like felt like I can just try it, and if I fail, it's fine. I think they had a really good like approach to just like trying and failing and that being okay.
Yeah, I think I always tried to like put out there that I was confident, and like have a confident front. And I feel similar in the way of like, well, I'm just going to try this thing. I'm just going to put myself out there. But there's definitely like an authority dynamic that I was dealing with a lot more when I was younger, especially, talking to men or just more experienced, like, confident business owners, who were like very assertive, or
Mhm.
um, honestly, to a level that was probably like rude, or just not someone that I would want to work with. But I wasn't sure how to differentiate in that situation. Is it them or is it me? Just
Right, you always
because,
think it's you. You always think you're the problem.
yeah,
When you're
like, and
younger, you're like, "I don't know, like, are they being rude? I can't tell."
yeah, and it's hard to differentiate that until you've really had the experience, to see the difference. But there are totally things I think we could have done to help us feel more confident and know the difference sooner. And I'm glad we did like invest in a business coach, to have just someone to like bounce ideas off of and be like, hey, this is a situation that's happening. And then being like, actually, no, your client is being really rude and like trying to control this project, just having somebody tell you that.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but
just
yeah,
like an outside perspective is so helpful when you're like really stuck in your head. I mean, I feel like that's what imposter
mhm.
syndrome kind of does to you, is it's like I think you can't always trust what those thoughts are telling you because they are kind of deceitful. They're not really giving you the full picture. And so that's why it is so nice to have like a mentor, a coach, a community, a friend, like someone you can bounce these like ideas off of, or like share these experiences or these feelings you're facing, and have someone just remind you like, oh no, like I don't think that other person's thinking that, or I think you're doing a great job, like, or yes, that email sounds correct, like you're pitching the right price, like just
Or
having that
like,
is so helpful.
no, you you don't have to know how to fully code a website from scratch to be a good web designer. Like, that's something
Right.
I dealt with so much. Like,
maybe not
Yes.
understanding like what level am I supposed to be at, like maybe that's like a really hard thing too
Yeah, like
that is
how
working.
wide does my skill set have to be for me to call myself a professional website designer? Because I'm self-taught, that's the majority of designers in our community like are do not have design degrees. Some do, but most do not. And that can be hard too when you're self-taught to, and especially in website design. For me, that's such a like wide field with so many specializations. And like I would talk to local like developer bros and stuff, and they'd be like, throwing around these terms and concepts that like I didn't know. And gender roles definitely plays in there too with like developer bros is what I call them.
Kind of a
But
different culture.
yeah, I don't know. And it's just I was worried that I was gonna get talked down to or be seen as like dumb or what I
And
wasn't.
sometimes we were. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, sometimes we were very much talked down to. It
Yeah.
just depends on the person.
I would say so. Or like, oh, you don't know how to do this, or you don't design on
Mhm.
WordPress, or you design on
Like thinking that
Squarespace.
they know better. And then when you're not sure about when you don't have that self-assurance and confidence, you're like, well, maybe they are right. And sometimes
Totally.
maybe
That's
they
where my
could be
brain
right, but
went.
it's not always. Like you shouldn't always um put your like validation and trust like into other people and like what they're saying. Like it really should come from you first. But I
Hmm.
understand that that's hard when you're new to something, so that's why it's so important to have like those positive outside voices versus the negative. Like you kind of need that to help combat the outside forces,
Hmm.
like
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely do. So those are some of our personal experiences with imposter syndrome and kind of like how it still affects us today. But there's a lot of other common, I think, like triggers for imposter syndrome that a lot of other designers and ourselves included also deal with. I think one of the top ones like we have to talk about is just comparison.
yeah.
So especially when I mean it's true whether you're newer or established, but just following other more seasoned and established designers on Instagram and like being thrown, their work or these metrics that they have or all this success, and then immediately comparing that to yourself and being like, well, that's gorgeous, and all feeling like all my work like sucks in comparison to that, or I've never hit that number of monthly income, or man, they've worked with so many clients, just like all those different metrics that immediately make you feel so down on yourself and like devalue everything that you've worked for in your business or done so far.
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful about that because it's like following other designers is really great for getting inspiration, but like if you're finding yourself like inspiration as far as I mean like their business, how they run things, like um but yeah, if you're constantly comparing yourself though, you're really going to be setting yourself behind cuz like you you're not going to be at the same place as a business who's been doing it for like, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever. Like you're going to be at a different place. So it really isn't helpful to compare yourself. That's definitely something to be careful about.
And I think it's like in moderation, it's important to stay in design communities and see what other people are doing. But when you're constantly hit with it all the time, it can really have a negative effect, I think, because it's just making you like I said, devalue everything that you've done, because you're getting this inaccurate perception of like everyone else is so successful, everyone else is creating like 100 million beautiful brands and websites, but you are seeing so many posts from so many different businesses, and like you don't know what's going on behind the scenes of them. It's just not an accurate picture. So I think it's
Mhm.
important to like curate your feed so that if there's stuff that's triggering to you, you try to see less of it, but also incorporating different types of like media and art and creators to really help balance it out for yourself so that it's not all just content that's going to trigger you to compare yourself and immediately feel like you're not good enough.
Mhm. Another common trigger I think is definitely whenever you're having like a bad experience with a client or if you make a mistake and just overly criticizing yourself for it. I think that
Mm.
we both tend to have kind of like just different natural reactions, but overall I think what is best for us in our experience is like, okay, even if we do make a mistake, it doesn't really help anyone to like keep beating yourself up over it. It's better to just like we are so good as teammates and as a business at just like learning and adapting, and changing for the future, because that's just the only the best way to go like forward and make positive improvements in your business, is just be like, oh yeah, I really screwed that up and here's how I'm not going to do that again, and that helps.
Yeah, and be, like, honest and upfront with the client if it's a situation where you need to address it, and figure out, yeah, like, where how can I avoid that happening next
Mhm.
time? Like you said,
And
we have
also
different.
allowing mistakes to happen sometimes, like, or
Yeah.
accepting them or admitting them. I think some people get kind of in the weeds a little bit if they're like feeling kind of impostery and they don't want to admit that they made a mistake and they want to hide it.
Mm,
But if it's something that does need to be approached, like just confidently say like, "Hey, that was my bad. I missed that message, or I missed this task on our proposal list, or whatever it is." Like, we've missed things before and we just say like, "Hey, I'm so sorry I dropped the ball on that. I'm going to get this done by this date." Like, have a plan for it, apologize, have a plan, and move on. Like, it doesn't have to be the end of the world.
mhm. Yeah, I think my natural reaction in some of the situations, especially bigger ones where a client is feeling very emotional and upset about something, is to question, like, everything else that I'm doing in addition to that mistake I
Yeah.
made, because I get so upset that, like, I made a mistake. It's hard for me to just be like, "Oh, it was just this one thing," and then move on. I get really fixated on it, and I start,
Mhm.
like, overanalyzing a lot of other things that really aren't even related to it, and so that's where it is really nice to have a partner who's like, "Hey, actually, that doesn't really have anything to do with
Yeah.
it. We
Like,
probably
actually,
shouldn't
you're fine.
question our whole pricing model because of this one little thing that wasn't even having anything to do with that."
Yeah, it's hard because it's like it's almost like, I could see sometimes we have this stuff in our brains that like you're maybe even subconsciously trying to prove to yourself, like, oh yeah, that is why I'm wrong, or that is why I'm not getting clients. And you
Mm,
try to prove that to yourself and you don't even realize you're doing it by like finding other problems to validate this truth that you feel like you have about yourself or about your abilities.
yeah,
And
that's a good point.
so it's a very like emotional thing. Definitely good to have therapy, have support to work through those things if they're consistently coming up. Because, like, I think at the root of imposter syndrome, it's just like insecurity. And so sometimes those insecurities could be like based in reality of like, yeah, I may be insecure because I am inexperienced, but the solution there is not to continue to worry about it and stress about it. It's to get the experience, it's to take the action. Like, that is the solution there. So I think as long as you're like, being aware of yourself and like what you need, like, and not getting caught up in your head all the time and like actually taking action forward, that's how you're going to move through these feelings, and that's how you're going to like struggle less, because you're going to take the action, which gives you the experience, which gives you the confidence. Like, it's all connected, and
Yeah.
that's just the healthiest way to go about all of that.
I think also another common trigger for imposter syndrome is people's perception of you and like really worrying about that and overanalyzing it, whether it's because you're young and putting yourself out there for the first time, or even if you're not young, and just being worried about like people that know you and their perception of that. That's really hard to push through. We see so many designers get stuck and they're like, yeah, I've I'm ready to go basically and to put my business out there, but I'm scared. I haven't posted yet, or I haven't showed my face, or everything. They haven't put any of themselves online because they're so nervous about how people are going to perceive it, which is understandable. Like it can feel cringy. It just That's just part of it. Or maybe you are like transitioning careers and there's been a skill or a role that you've been really excellent at and like really developed that profession, and now you're switching roles and having to kind of start back over with something that can also be hard to like not fully feel confident in your expertise and your skills in the way that you did in another
Mm-hmm.
role. So I think worrying about people's perception of putting yourself out there um, can really make you question yourself and just make you feel focus more on like how you're not an expert, or I don't know, just feel like you're faking it. When you're not faking it, you're just new to it.
Right, yeah, and it does feel like faking it. Like, I mean, I think to some extent, at least with like filming content to post online, it does kind of feel like you're faking it. It definitely felt very weird for me, and it still does. I still don't love making content. It doesn't always feel natural to me, but
Yeah.
it definitely felt scarier though to me when we were first starting. Like, I was just almost felt like embarrassing. Like, almost felt like embarrassed. I know that's maybe not the
It
right
is a
word, but
little
it's kind of how it felt,
embarrassing.
like the cringy embarrassing, like
Yeah.
it feels embarrassing to have to like film a story, especially when we first started. The stories were like a new thing too, I feel like, at that
Mm,
time. So it just felt kind of weird to have to like get out there and to film yourself and have to talk. And something that I've explained to my friends, they're usually asking me because they know me, and they're like, how are you just like posting online all the time? Like, how does that feel? Like, is that weird? Like, I could never imagine myself posting online for a business like that. And I'm like, well, I just kind of have to, but like I kind of
yeah.
like in my brain, I kind of separate like myself, who I am as like a whole person, is like separate from me making content for my business, if that makes sense. Like that's kind of how I
Hmm.
like make that mental separation and protect myself in a way. It's like, I mean, it is me, but it's just like it's the one sliver of me as a person, as Amanda, the business owner, creating the content. And
Yeah.
that just feels a little bit easier, I guess, because it's like makes you feel a little bit distance from people's perceptions a little bit, because it's
You're
like,
not
you know what,
putting
I just got
yourself
to do what
out
I got to
there
do. Like,
as you, the full human and friend and family member. I don't know that
mhm.
everyone else knows. Like you're putting yourself out there as you, the business owner, and like it
Yeah,
does feel awkward, but that awkward phase passes. Like it. And it passes relatively quick, honestly. Like once you kind of like go through those feelings of like, this is embarrassing that so and so is seeing it. I look really awkward. I look cringy. But like honestly, I feel like after probably the first month of doing it, you stop feeling that way. You just like have to get through it, and you're going to probably look, that content is going to be really cringy to you forever, like while you're getting your feet under you, but it's just something you have to go through and you have to push through at the beginning.
I think it's also helpful to think about, how do you view other people who are doing the same thing? Because like I never think that their content is cringy. I just think my
Mm-mm.
own is cringy, because it's like it just feels weird. It's weird to be a human who makes TikToks and reels.
And to have to
It's
perceive
so
yourself all the
unnatural.
time. Yeah.
Yes, it's so unnatural, but it's like something you just kind of have to do in like the age we live in now,
Yeah.
like to run an online business, like you just have to do it. And yeah. I don't know, that's my advice, is you just got
It's
to
not
do it, and you'll
ideal.
move through it. You'll move past it. You'll get over it,
You
it's
will.
hard though.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like how to actually move through and overcome imposter syndrome. I think like what we've mentioned already is just like the importance of understanding the value you bring is really helpful. And just like truly believing that what you offer like is valuable, it is helpful to your clients. Like they're obviously seeking you out for a reason. They can't do or don't want to do the design themselves. So even if you are a newer designer and maybe you don't have a ton of time and experience like under your belt, you still have, I would assume for most people, like you still have some level of education in this, whether it's self-educated or you went to school. Like you do have some basis of knowledge, and you have this design skill set, and so you're able to offer like an end product that should be reimbursed well for, like you should be paid well for that.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's something that again just like comes with time, but it's also important to do some practices for yourself. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's like making a Google Doc and just really like looking at like, what all do I offer? What are my strong suits? Like like writing it out, I think is really helpful, and seeing visually like a long list of like everything you do, every experience you have under your belt, like it just helps make it a little more tangible for you. So instead of just having these floating thoughts in your mind of like, I'm faking it, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm new to this, you can see like, okay, but here tangibly are my skills and my offerings and why what I do is valuable. That
And
can be
like
super
fully
helpful.
believing it for yourself. Like I think
Yeah.
that really is at that is the root of overcoming imposter syndrome and like the key thing. And we'll talk about a lot of other things that support it, but I think at the heart of things, if you don't believe what you offer is valuable and is worth people investing money in and is truly helping people, if you don't believe that, everything else in your business is not going to work because
Mhm.
you're not going to feel confident putting yourself out there on social media like we talked about. You're not going to feel confident on sales calls selling your services to clients, and you're going to crumble under any pressure or in projects when I don't know, you're trying to like keep things moving along or things get a little bit tough. Like you don't have that foundation of believing in yourself. And yes, it does come with time, but there's, like you said, Amanda, like you need to do that mindset work at the very beginning, which is why we have like a module in our pro design business course at the very beginning about doing mindset work. And we have like a mindset worksheet for you to go through with some prompts to like journal about and think about, because you have to do that work up front to make sure that you're actually believing in yourself and the value that you provide, or else nothing else is going to work.
Yeah, and it's something that you can't just do once and then be like completely healed. Like,
Sure.
something you may have to keep revisiting this. And because sometimes it can be hard to like, you can't just say like, I believe it and then believe it. Sometimes you really do have to work on these things. And that's why I think it is helpful to do those journal prompts and just list things out, give yourself a visual example, like whatever clicks for your brain, but just like give yourself the proof you need to believe what's true about your own
Mm-hmm.
self and your abilities as a business owner and as a designer.
I think most people skip that starting a
Mm-hmm.
business because we just get into the practicalities of it and all these tasks I need to do to set up. But really, if you don't think that through, you're missing a step, and you need to go back and do that to make that
Mm-hmm.
the foundation of your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Having confidence in yourself is like definitely a foundational need as a business owner. Like you just can't succeed without the confidence, because the confidence, it just trickles into everything that you do. And not saying that you have to have perfect confidence to even be able to start, but like you do need to have the confidence to start, right? And like if you're
Mm-hmm.
not even getting to that point, you have a little more work to do.
And something to come back to when these imposter syndrome thoughts keep popping up, because they are going to keep popping up. So, do you have something there to remind yourself to combat those every single time? Like, I wish somebody had given me a sheet of these prompts to work through when we were first starting out so that I could have gone back. And every time I had a thought of like, oh, this person made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing, but I can go back to this sheet and be like, no, like I do have X amount of experience and I'm talented and gifted in this way, so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm valid in charging this and doing this.
And over time, I think you like need that less, because like now you do have the actual like lived experience, and so nowadays it's like it takes something a little bit big for us to be very phased by in like a
Yeah.
project with a client. Like I feel like we can handle pretty much any situation that comes up, like just because we've faced a lot of situations and we've just built the trust that like we can always figure it out. Um, so I think that just kind of naturally grows as well over time.
Yeah. Another big way to combat imposter syndrome is just acknowledging that there is no one right way to do things. I think that's a big question that we had and a lot of newer designers have, is like, how should I price my services? What's the right way to structure my packages?
Mhm.
What income number should I be aiming for each month? And there's just not one answer to all of those questions, because the right way to do things for you is going to depend on what you need and want in this current moment. And that's going to change for you year to year. But like, that's going to depend on what your current goals are, what your availability is, your schedule, um,
Where you
and
live, even,
where you
like
live. Yeah.
what your costs are in your
If
life.
if
Like,
you're dealing with like disabilities, or you have different life circumstances, or there's so many different factors that are going to play into that. But I think that's really empowering also to know that there is not one right way to do it. You're just going to have to figure out the formula that works for you right now, which can kind of go into like specifically like how to price your services, and also I think plays into making sure that you're feeling valid in what you're offering and what you're charging, because you are accurately pricing and like setting up your offerings in a way that makes sense for what you bring to the table right now.
hmm yeah, because like what you're charging when you're first starting your business is probably going to be a lot lower than what you're charging years in. And that's like pretty standard. Like, you do kind of want to be fair to like what your current experience is, and also the level of clients you're trying to work with, and like what level of packages you're trying to deliver. So all that may change over time. So it's important to just like be flexible with that as that changes. But I think like along with what Cass is saying is like there's so many things that can come up, and like affect like your pricing, but there's a lot of tools that you can follow to really help you figure out like what can I confidently price my projects at right now? One of our best tools that we have available for designers is our project pricing spreadsheet. It helps you like calculate what you need. You can test different numbers based on, your availability for projects throughout the year, or based on different income goals. You can play around with that, and that's a great free tool that we have, and you can find that on our website. We'll have everything like in the show notes, but that is such a great tool to just like give you somewhere to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that will give you your base price, which
Mm-hmm.
we have a base price that tells you like, okay, based on your income goals and how many projects you want to take on each year, also factoring like some tax stuff into there, this is the minimum you need to be charging per
Mm-hmm.
project. And then there's some other factors you want to consider too, like the going rate for things, your skill, your experience, and the value of the project to your client. That can also be a factor. In our pro design business course, we have like a lot of lessons on pricing and formulating your offerings, because there is a lot of detail and factors that go into that. But I think it's important to feel like you've come up with a number that makes sense for the value that you bring right now, because you need to feel confident in that to in order to not constantly be questioning yourself and letting all these imposter syndrome feelings come up, so that when they do come up, it's like, am I good enough to charge this? You can be like, you can shut it down and be like, yes, I am. Like, this is fair.
And I
I have
did the
thought through this
math. I
number.
looked through the numbers.
I did the math. I know what other people are charging, and this is absolutely fair for what I'm providing. And it makes sense. It is a good exchange of someone's money for this service that I'm providing.
Mm-hmm. I think like the last recommendation we have for really helping you like move past the imposter syndrome is really clarifying your project processes, which also contributes to like the value of what you're doing. Which and also can really help your confidence and like not feeling so lost, because I think there's a lot of designers, especially if you're new to this, and um, like a lot of designers in our community, I know they don't really have set projects. Like they're kind of like making up the project process for every new client, or they kind of customize every single package that they're doing. And as you learn and grow, I think it's like that's just really not the most feasible thing to do. It's so much easier on you, and it helps make your job just it helps make it easier for you to like price your services and book projects and pitch your services on a sales call if you have like set and established project packages with set timelines and set prices. Outside of, you may still have some kind of custom package option, and that could be like your higher ticket option if you want. But we've just found like really clarifying what your process is and having like those set timelines, set prices is so helpful, not only when like doing your sales, but also just with like scheduling things on your calendar, knowing like what project spots you have available. So then you know like what to market about on your social media and to your email list. Like all of these things are connected. And that's something we really help with a lot in pro design business as well, is walking you through like different options for how to set up your packages,
Mm.
different things that you might want to include in those, different ways you might want to consider pricing them and pitching them, explaining them to clients. So that is super helpful. I think if you're like at a point in your business where things are not super solidified, that is going to help get rid of that imposter syndrome a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's going to help you feel more confident selling your packages, because you're going to, even if you haven't done it a ton, you can at least be like, yeah, this is what happens at this point of the project, this, and this, promise all these deliverables and timelines, which is going to help you and the client feel more comfortable. And then once you're actually in the project as well, it's going to help you feel more confident and get rid of those questions of like, am I at the point in the project I need to be? Am I behind? How long is this going to go on? How long is the client going to take to give me feedback? It eliminates all of those questions because you already have it mapped out. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you're going to evolve it, even if you like set out a package based on like how it goes and how you want to tweak it and change it. But I would really recommend, when you're first starting out, map out this full project for yourself. And for every client that you take on, make sure you have a start and an end date that you're at least planning on going with. And you can't really do that like as well on your own if you don't have some kind of guidance or like system from people who've done it before, which is why we invested in education early on, and we always advise new designers to do that too. Or if you've been doing this a few years but you're just feeling like, I still have so many questions, and I don't really understand how to fully map out my process and my
Just
projects.
need like
Like,
an outside perspective. Yeah.
yeah, that's really what Pro Design Business is for, to help you get your business fully set up and established and map out your services and your projects and feel super confident in that, and also have community to help you um, set up those things, and also to give feedback on those things and answer questions when things come up. So that's a part of Pro Design Business too. We have a community group. Amanda, if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So before we get into the community group, just like giving a little more background into Pro Design Business and exactly what that is. Pro Design Business is our most popular course. Right now, it's a self paced course. So you can go through and watch all the lessons you want. You can use the guided like worksheets and templates that we have along with the lessons. And it's really best for business owners who are in their first like 0 to 3 years. We have often had designers who are further along in their business as well, but it's definitely geared towards a newer designer who really is just feeling lost when it comes to like, how in the world do I even set up my business? How do I start marketing myself and my services? What the heck am I going to charge? What the heck are my packages? Like, how do you run a successful business and do it confidently? Because I think that's the thing that holds so many people back from even starting their business, is that they don't have that confidence, they don't have the support, they don't have the guidance, and you really do need that. And that was so valuable for us starting out too. And I think that that is really what helped us reach the success that we're at now, is just by not having to figure everything out on our own. That's
Yeah.
like, I'm just so glad that we invested in our education. So we're so glad that we can offer that too now to our audience, and we've helped hundreds of designers over the years start and grow their design businesses. So now, along with the course, there has always been a community, but we've recently updated the community and are making it something new and even better improved. It is now called the Designer's Den, which makes sense because we're Foxtrot branding. You can come join us in our cozy little den. We want it to
It's
be
so
a
cute.
cozy online community space so that designers of any level and however many years you're in business, you can join the Designer's Den. But there are also private subgroups in this public group now for our community course members. So now it'll be, even more people that you can connect with. There's chat rooms, so it can be casually. You can chat with people. You can also ask for advice. You can share your wins. You can post your design work to get design feedback. So it's a really helpful group if you are, especially because most designers are not like us. They don't have a co founder, they are doing this completely solo. And that can definitely get a little bit lonely sometimes and feeling like you're always having to figure everything out on your own. So we want to invite you to either join Pro Design Business and get free access to the Designer's Den community, or if you are not interested in any courses right now, you can join the Designer's Den community on its own. You just don't get access to those like private course member groups, the subgroups.
So if you guys are interested in Pro Design Business, you can join today at prodesignbusiness.com. And if you want to join the Designer's Den, you can go to foxtrotbranding.com/Designer's Den, and you can join there. We'll do a listener question now. And our listener question this month is from Alyssa Ree Studio. And they asked, what is your best productivity hack?
The first thing, this is such like a vague question, so like my first like answer that popped in my mind was like, take a break. Like, that's always my default, is like, if I'm really struggling with being productive, I know that my brain just is, it's just tired and it needs a break. And especially being a creative person, I think that's like pretty common for most of us. Like, sometimes you just can't do it all, and you kind of just need to step away and give your brain a rest, and then you can come back to whatever you're working on, and usually you'll have fresh ideas. And so, I mean, that's my productivity hack. I don't know if you have another to offer us.
I get me and Amanda both have ADHD, so we struggle with it, being productive in our own ways. I guess I would say not overloading myself and making it clear like what my tasks are that I actually need to get done, and prioritizing it, and like us talking about it and having meetings of like, all right, we're going to get this done this day, and just being realistic. I think about what you can achieve is the best way to feel productive, because productivity is a subjective term. I think that's going to mean different things. And I think the key is to make yourself feel productive.
This also ties back to the patriarchy.
Sure.
Like everything ties back.
Let's bring it back around.
Like, because most people, when they talk about productivity, it's very like corporate or like factory based, output based kind of talk. It's like, it's not just being productive for the sake of producing something valuable. They're like, how can we do like as much as possible? And that's just not the approach to productivity we have, which is why my answer was like, if you're not feeling productive, if you're struggling, like take a break. Or like Cass said, set intentions, set your like 3 main tasks, your 3 main goals for the day, and like let that be enough. Like you don't have to like fill every minute or every hour with unlimited tasks,
Yeah. Okay, we will wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening to this month's episode. We look forward to the next one. All the links that we mentioned for Pro Design Business and the Designer's Den are going to be in the show notes below. And if you have a listener question that you want us to answer on a future episode, you can leave it in a comment on the YouTube video or in a comment on the Spotify episode if you're listening there, or send us a DM on Instagram. We're at Foxtrot Branding. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next month. Bye.
Thank you guys.